We're joined by two of our three Chelan County Commissioners today. Kevin Overbay, who represents the county's 1st District. 3rd District Commissioner Doug England. Our 2nd District Commissioner, Bob Boogert, is in Washington, D.C. today as a part of the Upper Columbia Salmon Recovery Board's meetings there? Or?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
He's back talking salmon, as a matter of fact, in D.C.
Good deal. Any particular issues that are of concern at this point?
Just the basic recovery pieces that they have, and some funding pieces and so forth. And
Make sure we get our fair share of the funding.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay. Last week, you had a workshop on ongoing discussions about regulating the vacation rental housing here in Chelan County. Could you give us a little recap of how that went? Doug?
We, as part of the work meeting, and again, no public testimony was taken because it's just kind of a view of how we have to work together under the Open Meetings Act. And so we're discussing, and we'll continue this next week with a discussion on one, is there a need for regulations in the county? 2, if there is a need, then what those regulations will look like. And then we're also considering whether we will try to keep the kind of the coordination and the organization of the enforcement, if we do decide to do those in-house, or whether we will use a contractor to at least organize and get us information. We're told now that there are around 2,100 vacation rentals, most of them seasonal, but there are vacation rentals that are advertising within Chelan County. Most of those are concentrated in the Leavenworth area and the Chelan area, but increasingly there are a number of them in the Malaga area and in District 1. And so it's a county-wide concern, and we'll kind of address what we need to do to most of the problem occurs with noise, with congestion, with some of those issues that bring the neighbors to the front and complain about exactly what their neighborhood is turning into.
And that was a topic that you've been talking about now for about 2 years. Are there any models out there, other communities that have similar issues, or maybe some templates from which you can work from?
Most states now, and a lot of the counties within Chelan County, within Washington, are developing those kind. And so we do have a number of models. Everything from very strict, very detailed ones in Hawaii to less detailed in California, but still have some of the same concerns. And most of them are addressing the same issues that we're addressing.
Well, I know Lake Chelan is an issue, an area that is pretty popular, as is Leavenworth and Lake Wenatchee area. Your 1st district, is this much of an issue at all?
It's actually becoming one.
It is?
Yeah, believe it or not, Malaga actually is starting to draw a lot of folks out to that area. A lot of folks are utilizing their residences as vacation rental pieces, and they're starting to grow every year. We get more and more, and so I think it's the proximity to Mission Ridge, especially during the winter months, and the winter recreation piece is really what draws it, and then it's just a nice place out there.
Do you have any kind of a timeline at this point for when you'd like to have maybe some public hearings on this topic?
A year ago. We're kind of continuing. I think our next meeting is scheduled now to be another work session, and to look through that. And then what we will do is have a rough template and have our community development then take that to the Planning Commission, just run it past them, and then come back with suggestions to us from the Planning Commission. And so we hope by this fall, which is later than what we wanted to, but by this fall we'll have made those decisions that I mentioned, and whether or not and how, if we do, to move forward.
Okay. On the topic of recreation, you're in ongoing discussions, I guess, with the state on the Squilchuck State Park and Stimmelt Recreation Plan. Kevin, that's your district?
Absolutely, yes. So in 2015, there was the Nanum to Columbia River Plan that was actually adopted by DNR and WDFW. And so this, our folks with our Natural Resources Department followed suit with that and started in 2016 putting together a work group with regards to taking that 30,000-foot viewpoint from the Nanum to Columbia River Plan and actually kind of narrowing it down and looking at one particular section, which is the Stimmilt Squilchuck Basins and the recreational opportunities up in that area. And have developed about an 80-page plan with regards to different uses up in there. Really what this has come down to when we had public hearings both on the 28th of May and then on the 4th of June was it came down to one element that everybody was concerned about, and that was winter recreation, motorized versus non-motorized, and setting aside an area for non-motorized use out of the basin that would be specific for that, and it would exclude motorized, and that's kind of been a point of contention for the different user groups. But there's a lot more in that plan. And so we had thought that we would adopt that plan potentially, or at least have conversations about the adoption of that plan on the 17th, which is next Monday. But there's so much in that plan. I think what we may end up doing is looking to extend a little bit of time, give ourselves an opportunity to look at the plan in its entirety. WDFW and DNR are kind of watching what the county's going to do. This is, if we do adopt the plan is specific for county-owned properties, which we have 2 sections that we own that would actually be within that plan framework. But
It's kind of a patchwork quilt of land.
it really is. Yeah, it's really made up of state, federal, private, and then county-owned properties. And so by us adopting the plan, it doesn't mean that that would be the rule, of the day for all the other property users. It'd be how we would manage our properties that we have as the county. However, the state is looking at, with WDFW and DNR, they're watching to see what we're doing and would more than likely probably adopt the same mechanism that we use, depending on what the outcome is. And so that would pretty much guide the recreational pieces up in the Stimmilt Squilchuck Basins on both, county and state lands.
What do you see as the potential?
Well, when you take a look at this, you have to weigh public access to lands, and we have to have a plan in place. I mean, that's really the question. It's been lands that have been used for 100+ years. Have the folks that have been using them and living in and around them and ownership of them have been good stewards of those lands. And so the one question posed is, do we really need a recreational plan? But as we continue to see more growth into our community and more recreational opportunities, how do we mitigate conflict or potential conflict? And some think that there's not conflict. So
now, at the same time, I know that Mission Ridge Ski Resort is looking at expanding their offerings up there to possibly even a year-round type of operation. How does the county's rec plan fit in with what's going on out there?
I think that when you take a look at this, what it's trying to be is complementary to each one of the elements that that may or may not occur up there. That is something that's in the planning department. Whether that occurs or does not occur, or what mitigations have to be in place, and that is yet to be seen. But what the county has done, and what Natural Resources Department has done, and Aaron McKay has actually been the lead on that. Our Natural Resources Department, they've done a great job of soliciting multiple user groups to include the Stimmilt Partnership, the 26, 27 member group, that to receive the information, and how does this look, and what do we want this to look like? Because you have irrigation companies, you have recreationalists, like Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance, you have other user groups that everybody has a stake in that. And it really comes down to the 3 tenets of wildlife, water resource, and recreation, and how we balance that with the priorities of each one of those 3 tenets. And so, this plan has been well drafted. It's taken 2 years to draft this up, but there are some components of it that I think need a little bit further review by us, because really, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have a foundational plan that will stand the test of time, and that those that come after us understand what the true intent of the plan is, and so therefore it protects the resource in perpetuity.
Okay, so once again, when would you like to have that plan in place?
There's not a big hurry, but I think that we could probably have that plan in place probably by the end of summer at the very latest.
Okay, very
And
good.
Steve, these they're strangely related. When we talk about Chelan County being a great place to live and work and play, we're trying to do that on about 13% of the county that isn't really owned by government. And so As the population increases, there's more conflict between people, and so there needs to be more organization with that. It'd be nice to go back to the old days where there's so few people using it that there's not really a lot of conflict. But whether it's in neighborhoods or whether it's up in the Stimwell Basin, that's unfortunately kind of going to be a direction that we're going to have to go in a lot of cases, even though we'd rather not.
Well, I'll tell you what, it seems to be a microcosm of what's going on up in Leavenworth with their adventure park.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, how much tourism-related activities can the community, sustain?
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to the quality of life for our citizens that live here, year round, and then the quality of life of our visitors, that they come here. So it's really trying to strike that balance.
So let's finally talk about the cherry harvest is nearing now, later this month. Your cherry worker tent camp back in operation.
You can tell that it's time for cherries, even though it seems like it's awfully early. You can start seeing them on the tree now. You can start hearing helicopters and wind machines going on every time there's a little bit of sprinkle, trying to get the trees dry again. And as a result, the labor camp has started up. And again, as you remember, this is a state contract that we have, and it involves trying to provide a place for workers for that cherry harvest on a very short-term basis. And it's very well run out there, and it does provide a needed niche for the cherry growers that need a short-term labor supply.
Very good. One final note, 90th anniversary of Ohme Gardens coming up. I'm sure you'd like to comment on that.
Yeah, you were actually reading my mind. I was actually thinking I need to tell Steve about the 90th. There is actually a fundraiser for the gardens that will be this Friday, June 14th. We have the Dusty 45s, which is a Seattle band that's actually going to be doing a concert as a fundraiser for the gardens. And Jason Browning, our new garden director, is just doing an incredible job. Has teamed up with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber, and we have they are actually revitalizing the Friends of the Garden piece. And a week or so ago, we were there. We had Cisco Morris came over and visited us and did a presentation for Friends of the Garden. Quite a great guy, and an interesting fella. And yeah, we're celebrating the 90th anniversary of the gardens this year. So
Fantastic.
a lot of things going on.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Of course, the Chelan County Commissioners meet every Monday and Tuesday. Meetings start at 9 a.m. and they're open to the public. Thanks you very much for joining us. Again, Steve Hare, NCWLIFE News.